Hey, everybody, and welcome to And Action Filmmaking Podcast. I'm Tommy DiNucci, as always, here with Mikey Messier. And Mike, we've got a little bit of a unique topic this week, a little unique approach to things. We're going to be talking about my upcoming fall film camp. But before we get into that, there's a lot to chat about, a lot of news in the movie world this week. But before we even get into that, how are you, Mike?
Tommy, I'm doing pretty good, buddy. I had an interesting weekend. One of our followers, one of our watchers, Laza, suggested in a roundabout way that I try this cameo experience. So I got on there, I signed up, and I was able to do my first cameo on Saturday night. Pretty fun
Yeah.
experience, Tommy. Yeah, thanks.
Well, congratulations for joining the Cameo ranks. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I found it pretty fun and most importantly, buddy, it was easy. So if anyone wants a cameo from me, you can contact me, or if anyone wants to sign up as a talent, they can contact me, and I can tell you what I know. But it's pretty simple. And beyond that, buddy, I think you were about to get to this. There are some positive signs that the Writers Guild strike might be coming to a agreement. A tentative agreement has been reached, I believe, with the producers, and so that's a good sign for the writers, and that would be a good sign for the actors SAG-AFTRA as well.
That's right, Mike. You just spilled the big beans, the big movie beans of the week, and that is looks like strike time is coming to an end. And like Mike said, you'd have to imagine that uh, since the unions both shared similar gripes, you'd have to imagine that SAG will somewhat follow suit here and kind of tag along with whatever agreement was made with the Writers Guild. I'm sure there are still some differences. Obviously, we're talking about two different realms of the business, writing versus acting. But I know that a lot of the issues were in parallel. So I'm hoping that we hear something within the next week or 2 weeks. And I think it would be really great if this business could get back on its feet before the end of the year. I mean, I think that's what it looks like we're aiming for.
Well, Tommy, it's interesting to me that a lot of, I go to the movies all the time, and you see a lot of the big names like Brad Pitt is often listed as a producer on his films. Tom Hanks is often listed as a producer. There's many other examples of that where big names are now becoming producers. So you got to think that some of these actors, they also have it in their best interest as producers to kind of make agreements with themselves. And if nothing else, it's kind of existential in a way, but maybe that helps lubricate the process. We'll see.
Well, I think that the big thing is, beyond any big name A-list producers or anything like that, I think the big important thing is just that a lot of the regular Joes and Janes will get to go back to work now. We've talked about this before, and I don't want to hit it over the head, but yeah, we all know about the movie stars and the big directors and writers and producers that this is affecting. But you got to think about the guy who's holding a boom mic. You got to think about the guy who's setting up a C stand, the grips, the catering people, even regular businesses. I hate to say regular, but how about non-movie businesses? The hotels that are now going to be back at capacity in during off times when they normally wouldn't be. The restaurants, when you shoot a movie, you got a ton of people that are ordering food and doing takeout from various local establishments. So I think what you're going to see is a big surge of positive dollars, energy, and excitement going out to a lot of people. So I'm stoked. I'm fired up to be getting back to work. It's so funny. Um, just the news of that, the rumblings of we've got a verbal agreement with the Writers Guild, and looks like things are getting back on track. I've been very pleased to see that this week alone my phone's been ringing again. And I'm getting some calls from producers that are, as they say, dusting off the old projects that were put on the shelf for these last 5 months or so, and now we're getting a lot of positive momentum moving forward. It's nice to see a little momentum because it's been goddamn stagnant for a long time.
Well, Tommy, I know that one way our subject matter for this today's episode kind of proves that you're always looking to contribute and to be involved. And on my part, I've got Avalonia Festival 8. Can't believe it's the 8th live event, buddy. It will be coming up November 4th at Atlantic Beach. I've got a new location. It's an actual movie theater, the Atlantic Theater in Atlantic Beach, Florida. And entries of short films, etc., are still open until October 7th. And on your that's an interesting date, Tommy, because October 7th, believe it or not, is why we're here, because this is a kind of a very special episode, as they used to say before certain episodes of Different Strokes. Very special episode of And Action. Why don't you tell us about what's happening on October 7th and what we can expect today in preparation?
Yeah, Mike, I'm excited to talk about this. And before we do, let me just give a quick shout out to everybody. Stephen E, what's up, brother? Always good to see you. Uh, Kim, what's up, Kim? Kim shot me a message last night. Always super helpful. We love Kim, and we appreciate all of her dedication and willingness to help at all times, man. That's such a rare thing to find these days. Laza, brother, I wish you could be there for the film camp, but there are rumors that we're actually going to film this film camp. We're going to film the film camp, and I might be posting it up somewhere that you can get it on the cheap. So that's my plan. Stephen E. Oh man, Stephen E. says he's moving his schedule around to attend. Thank you, brother. I mean that so means so much to me. Thank you very much. I can't wait to finally see you in person and chop it up with you. Ariana, what's up, Ariana? Ariana, I'm going to be seeing later on. We've got a screenplay that we're working on. It's coming
Yeah,
along
thanks,
very
Laza.
nicely. Laza says Mike is doing great with his cameo. It was legendary. Encourage people to hit it up. Mike up on Cameo. Hear that, guys? Birthday greetings. Maybe just a motivational shot in the arm for Mikey. Whatever you need, hit him up on Cameo. He'll take care of business. Stephen E says, "Congratulations, Mike and Tommy." Thanks, brother. It's going to be nice to get back to work, man. There's nothing worse than we talk about this all the time, and I'll use this as a segue into the film camp talk. But we talk about it all the time. We're so lucky to be making movies and to be in an industry where we're working, but we love what we're doing. So it almost sometimes doesn't feel like work, even though we sacrifice a lot and we put a lot of time and effort into it. And when you suddenly can't do that work like you're used to doing, oh man, it'll hurt. I'm not going to try and expose my feelings here on Damned Action, but these last few months have been kind of dark at times for me, and just kind of not knowing when things are going to end and not being able to do. I guess you could sum it up to just not being able to do what you love to do and what in your mind you were put on the planet to do, and then you kind of get that tugged from you when you have all these plans about to kind of mount up because you feel like the momentum's building, and then yank. And listen, I'm not alone in this. A lot of people felt the same way. So I originally got the idea to do this film camp because I felt as though there were probably a lot of people that were kind of down in the business. There were a lot of people that probably felt the same way that I feel, where it's like, oh man, we've got all of these creative muscles that we really can't flex right now. It's like, wanting to work out, but the gym's closed. Oh, I got all this energy. What do I do? So originally the film camp was a way for us to kind of be like, hey, I know we can't make movies right now because of all of these strikes, but maybe we can at least talk about it. We can level up our game a little bit. We can learn a thing or two, and we can get better at what we do so that when it does come time to get back into action, we'll be poised and ready to kick some filmmaking ass. And that was my plan, and it was going to be, again, I guess, just a way to kind of stoke all of our creative fires a little bit, and maybe have some hope that there's going to be some good stuff coming down the road. And then everything changed, everything changed about last week. It's kind of funny, man. I don't want to go too off the beaten path here, but it's And Action. People like storytelling. That's what we're here for. And about 2 weeks ago, I got a call from one of my producers that, we're working on a project. And he basically was like, hey, got that script that we've been working on. And I don't want to give away too much information on here because nothing's set in stone yet, but there's a major network, a major company that is, certainly a studio, if you will, that's interested in a script that I co-wrote. And they were going to make it right before this strike. It was so ready to go. It was practically greenlit. And then the strike happened. And then about 2 weeks ago, I got a call from my producer who's affiliated with that project and put me on it. And he basically was like, hey, can you dust off that script? There were a couple of last minute notes that I needed to adjust for the executives and get it ready to go. And I said to myself, I'm trying to read the tea leaves here a little bit. If this studio just contacted my producer and said, hey, where's that script at? Maybe there's something they know that I don't know. And I got a little confident. I got a little bit of a glimmer of hope. Like, why are they asking about this script all of a sudden if we're in the middle of a strike mode? And then sure enough, literally like 2-3 days later, there's an announcement that, okay, the two sides are going to be meeting again. The Writers Guild are going back to the table to negotiate. And then about a week later, here we are, an agreement has been made verbally. So again, I'm not trying to say that they knew something that we didn't know, but I mean, come on, you don't have to be a detective to see that, clearly the studios probably knew that this thing was going to be coming to an end a lot longer than we all did. And I was saying it from day one, man, this strike isn't going to end until March. So I'm pleasantly surprised to see some movement. I don't want to get too excited because obviously this is just a deal, a verbal deal. There's still got to be T's to cross and I's to dot, but it's a good sign. So basically, in the last week or two, everything changed from being this seminar that would be designed to get people motivated and excited because it's been so goddamn grim without any work to, hey, wait a minute. Now we're actually potentially going back to work in the next month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe even before Santa slides his fat ass down the chimney. We'll be on a movie set. So I'm pretty excited about that, Mike. So it's funny how you hear this all the time. It's almost fucking cliche, but timing really is everything. And I can't think of a better time to get a bunch of artists in a room and kind of like do one of these. We're kind of stretching out a little bit. We're gonna work out the kinks a little bit, and get back in the movie gym with this fall film camp.
And let's give the specifics out, Tommy. I believe it's October 7th, 1 p.m. Is that correct?
It's all going
2023.
down. That's right. Lucky number 7, October 7th. A nice fall day. It's all going to be going down at 1 p.m. Planning an event is very strategic. I wanted to, you're always trying to pick the right time. I didn't want to do an evening event because I felt like, I know my evenings are precious. I think people's nights with their family and friends are kind of precious. And I figured this would be a nice chance. 1 o'clock, kind of middle of the day. You can still have your morning to yourself to get something done if you have to. And then, we spend a little afternoon together at my film camp. So I also wanted to do it on a Saturday because, chances are most people aren't working on a Saturday. If you've got some travel ahead of you, it's a nice day to travel on a weekend. And of course, like many others, I'm a huge football fan. So I certainly didn't want to be competing with the National Football League. So we're not going to be doing any Sunday seminars in the fall. That's actually a tip that I learned from my dear friend, Mikey Messier. Mike always told me that's something that I always remember from you, buddy. You've taught me a lot of things over the years, but one thing you always said that stuck with me is never compete with football. Just if it's a fall or even an early winter event, because you've got playoffs, don't even try. Just don't do it. People want to be sedentary on a Sunday, planted, watching them games. So yeah, that's why we're doing it on Saturday. As Scott checks in, what's up, Scott? Scott says, "Good luck with your camp." Thank you, brother. I wish you could be there. I know you've got a little bit of a travel situation from where you are, but we appreciate all the support and well wishes as always. Anna, what's up, Anna? Good to see you back here on the show. So yeah, basically, Mike, we wanted to do it at a nice time that's convenient for a lot of people. And basically, I'll give you kind of like a rundown of how it's going to work, and feel free to interject because I don't want to just be blowing my horn here the whole time.
Tommy, tell us about the venue first, because I don't think you've named the venue.
Yes, please. Thanks for keeping me on task. The venue is the Greenwich Odeum Theater. The Greenwich Odeum is a wonderful venue that I've worked at many times. It's located on Main Street in East Greenwich. Really easy to get to. You can probably hear my cat Larry is agreeing. He's meowing his face off because it's so easy to get to the Greenwich Odeum. It's on a very, like I said, Main Street. It's a really beautiful little kind of Norman Rockwellian type street, complete with little coffee shops and restaurants. So it's the kind of place where there's a lot of places to hang out within walking distance. You can easily park somewhere on Main Street or in one of the surrounding streets nearby, and you can kind of make a little day of it. So people that are coming to the seminar, I'd recommend, like, hey, get there a little early. There's a place called Main Street Coffee Shop. They're not giving me any money to say this, but there's a place called Main Street Coffee Shop that is literally just a few doors down from the Odeum Theater. Be a great place to go, sit, hang out, have a coffee, maybe get some food before the seminar. And then after the seminar, too, there's a lot of great places to grab a bite to eat, get a drink, tons of restaurants. My favorite restaurant on Main Street is La Masseria, but there's a lot of great restaurants, Fresco's there. And if you want just something simple like a diner type eats, they got that too. So Main Street's a really cool place, and everybody who's coming to the seminar, I think they're gonna kind of like the vibe that Main Street has. Also, Verdi Productions main office, that's the movie company that I've made the majority of my films with, and I practically like grew up in that building, as an adult. It's the old church right on Main Street. So Main Street's big for me. I've got so many memories on Main Street, man. Like I can really just like walk down that street, get very nostalgic. I've shot a lot of movies on Main Street. Um, so it's a great place for this venue because there's just so much history, and in my career at least, hanging around that area. And the Odeum itself is just a really great throwback style theater. A lot of times when you hear throwback, people get, ooh, doesn't even mean is the roof falling down? Is the place about to cave in? No, it's old school and old fashioned in the sense that when you walk through those doors, you feel like you're in a theater in the 1940s or 50s. The beautiful kind of red carpet in the entryway, and it's got a really nice mezzanine, kind of like a loft where you can sit. There's also obviously tons of great seating on the inside. Really nice stage. So I'm excited to kind of do my thing at the Odeum. This is my second seminar there. I did another seminar many years ago, probably at least 5 years ago. And it was a great success, and it was a great time. And since then, the building's had a lot of upgrades. So it's going to be a very comfortable space. I think that people that come to the film camp are going to find that you're almost in that old school cinematic mode when you're in that building.
I think people that, like you said, Tommy, if people do come in from out of town, allot yourself time before, after, or both to enjoy Main Street in East Greenwich. Because, like you said, it's kind of one of these places that people, if they don't know about it, they don't know what they're missing out on. I mean, you can spend the whole night just walking from, shop to shop, restaurant to restaurant. Sometimes you can hear music coming from some places. It's really nice, and I think in the fall it's going to be especially nice. Not too warm, not too cold. And there's also a lot of free parking in the area. And Tommy, that's a big thing. If this was happening in Boston and New York City, you're spending another 40 or $50 at least to park for a few hours. But in Greenwich, I've usually found places to park for free for as long as I want. Parking's never a problem there.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mike. All right, so guys, I'm telling you this one because I am one of the bigger agoraphobes out there. I hardly ever leave my house. Mike can attest to that. Like, if I'm going to go to an event, like if this were me and I was going to go to the Tommy DeNucci Fall Film Camp, I would immediately get nervous belly because that's just how I am. I get nervous belly. The date's coming up. How am I going to get there? I got to drive. I've got to park. Will I be able to find the place? Let me tell you, from one of the most anxiety-ridden motherfuckers that you'll ever meet, myself, it's so easy to get to Main Street. It's literally one exit off the highway, and then off the highway, you drive down a street and you take a left, and you're on Main Street. You can't miss it. And like Mike said, there's parking all up and down Main Street. And if you can't find a spot, which is very rare, there's a couple of really pretty streets parallel with Main Street that are always vacant, and full spots are always available. So it's going to be a really easy thing to get to. This isn't, like Mike said, I ain't trying to dump on Boston. I ain't trying to dump on New York. But this isn't like one of these things where like this venue is in the middle of nowhere and there's going to be a challenge to park. And then once you're out of the venue, you're going to go like Mike said, you're probably going to want to hang around Main Street, get a bite to eat. Who knows? Maybe we'll all get a bite to eat together after the show. I wouldn't be surprised if I find myself at one of the local watering holes after, and I would love to see any attendees are welcome to come on down and have a soda, have a cocktail, have a coffee, have whatever wets your whistle, and chat with me after the show. I'll most likely be around. Mike, I just, if you take the floor for a second, I just got to let Larry out. He's being very
Yes.
rambunctious, and I just
No
want to,
problem.
he has a natural urge to hunt outside.
Well, Tommy's
Come on,
cats, Larry and Donnie, have been very prominent on Tommy's social media. For those of you that know, I've been doing a lot of social media advertising my books, as always, a distance from Avalon, Fighter Play Basketball. Tommy, I was putting over your cats. Larry and Donnie are becoming social media superstar cats. In the last, they're riding skateboards and all types of fun stuff, buddy.
Mike, it's kind of funny. They say you work with what you got. in these last 4 or 5 months, I couldn't work with SAG actors. So, hey, there's no rules against casting cats. So yeah, Larry and Donnie have been the focus of a lot of my videos. And here's the thing, like people that know me, like my real friends, they know that like I can't fucking help it. I just need to create every day. Like I
Yeah.
need to make something. Whether I'm drawing a picture, whether I'm making a stupid 15-second cat video, like I just have an urge to make things. With whether I'm doing it with a camera or creating an image. So the cats, unfortunately, whether they want to play along or not, they're kind of they're part of that mix. So yeah, we love Larry and Donnie. I got a question here from Stephen E. Stephen
All right.
says, Tommy, you should have someone help you vlog the day of the event, put some behind the scenes on the channel. That's a great idea, Stephen. Actually, I have Mike Braga. Shout out to Mike Braga. He's going to be, whether he knows it not or yet. That's my assistant. He doesn't know this yet, and he sometimes watches the show. Sometimes he doesn't. He claims he watches it. I don't really believe him. So we'll find out if he actually watches And Action because, yeah, Mike Braga is going to be putting on a multi-camera shoot of this event. And then the plan is to take the multi-camera shoot and put it behind a paywall of some kind. It's not going to be the cost of the event. It's going to be much cheaper. We'll get into cost of the event and all that stuff. But before I get into that, I really want to talk about what this event's all about. So it's a broad array of topics, but we got a lot of time to talk. The whole seminar is going to be about roughly 2 to 3 hours for general admission, and then there'll be an additional hour for VIPs. So basically, within that first 2 to 3 hours, depending upon how quickly I talk, and really, I mean this depending upon how many questions there are from the people that come to the event, because I'm willing to really make this interactive. That's the whole kind of point of this entire seminar is, guys, I've been bullshitted so many times making movies since I was 18 years old. I've heard so many falsehoods, so many incorrect narratives, so many, you know, just flimsy pieces of advice. And I'm really kind of sick of it, and it almost makes me mad. I'm not a violent guy, but when I hear people leading others down the wrong path, I almost want to like check someone into a wall and just be like, "You're fucking wrong." Like, why would you ruin someone's confidence with this bullshit? Um, I'm here to motivate people. I'm here to get people excited about what they're doing and make them believe that they actually can do it. Because really, as cheesy as it sounds, uh, a lot of the battle that you fight in the movie business, whether you're an actor, whether you're a writer, whether you're a producer or director, the biggest opponent that you fight is yourself. You're fighting the person in here, because we have so many, like I said, just kind of delusions about what this business really is. So I am going to methodically break down what's helped me. And again, I'm not saying that I'm the most successful person in the world, but I can tell you, without handing over any IRS records, this is the only job that I've ever had as an adult. Really, I mean that. Like just making movies. There was no safety job. There was no kind of work at the hardware store. I've been able to make a living doing this. Mortgage, bills, cat treats, skateboards for my cat. Every dollar that I spend, it's a dollar that's been made from making movies for the most part. So again, that's my track record. And I'm not saying I'm a gajillionaire, but I've been paying my bills making movies for the last, I don't even want to say how long because people are going to know that I'm almost 1,000 years old if I say it. So I'm going to give you all of the tips that I've learned in these last 10, 15 years of doing this: acting, writing, directing, producing. And just quickly, because this is a preview, I want to give you the preview. Acting, I'm going to give actors some ways to become more castable, right? The secrets to becoming more castable. What is it that's going to make you stand out in an audition room as opposed to everybody else? What are some things that you can do to prep yourself when you're not in the audition room so that when you get to the audition room, you're ready? I think that's the biggest misconception about acting. We're always trying to nail the audition, right? Prepare for that big audition. But like, if you don't have all the skills before that audition, what makes you think you're just going to walk into an audition and nail it? Like, you have to have the skill set long before you go to the audition. And I'm going to talk about some ways that you can train, and some methods that you can get those skills so that you don't get nervous when you have an audition. You get excited because you're like, oh man, they have no idea what they're about to see from me. Um, I'm the right person that they've been looking for. And you're going to get that confidence after hearing some of these tips. As far as producing goes, guys, I'm going to give you some producing nuggets that are going to, I think, really be helpful, because you know what the number one, I get two really big questions. It happens on this show a lot. It happens just in my day-to-day life when I'm walking around and meeting other movie people. And the two big questions that everybody asks, number one, this is the big one. How do you raise money for your movies? How do you get financing? Well, guys, that is not an easy, like, one sentence answer. But in the film camp, I am going to dive in to all of my strategies on how I've raised money. And guys, in my day, like, listen, we're talking like I've probably raised well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars of private equity to make films in my career. You know, close to millions of dollars in private equity. When you look at all the movies that I've been a part of have always been private equity. Again, these aren't studio movies. So I'm going to give you some of my strategies on how I've been able to convince people that my project is worth putting your actual hard-earned cash into. So we're going to be talking about how to raise money. And then the other one that I get all the time is, okay, you've got your project made. How do you get distribution? So we're going to be talking all about distribution in the producers portion of the seminar. Guys, you'd be surprised. It's I don't want to say a lot easier than you'd think, because it's still challenging. But I think a lot of people think that these distributors, there's that Wizard of Oz feeling where, like, they're the man behind the curtain, and how am I ever going to be able to break that wall down and get in contact with them? Well, I'm going to give you some strategies and tips on how you can gain the attention of distributors and get the distributors to actually be calling you and saying, "Hey, I heard about this project. Do you have distribution for that yet?" We're going to talk about some ways that that can get done. So, Mike, that's just acting and producing. There's a lot more to it that we'll get into, but wouldn't you say those are two questions that, and I know you're a filmmaker too, and wouldn't you say those are the two big ones? Like, okay, how do you get money for your movie, and how do you get it onto, quote, the big screen or Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, the first question is like, the before you make your movie, how does one afford to make it? Unless you're paying for something out of pocket, that's going to be a pretty low budget. So a lot of times you want some outside funding. So how do you get the funding? And then once the movie's made, what do I do with it? What do I do with this movie that I have? If the movie has good audio and looks pretty good and has a good story, how do you get some return on your investment? So I think those are two big topics that you can go into in detail at the seminar on October 7th.
Yeah, again, guys, this is no bullshit. I'm going to be just telling you all of the things that I've developed and learned over the last 10, 15 years. I'm excited to share this stuff with you because, again, I get so angry when I hear all of the misconceptions and I see people post things online. And, guys, I'm not the kind of person, I don't have time in the fucking day to go on someone's post and to tell them that they're wrong and correct some fucking stupid, idiotic drivel that comes out of their mouth. But the reality is, when I'm online and I'm looking through various filmmakers and producers, and I hate to use the word wannabe, we'll take out the word wannabe and replace it with, aspiring. I see a lot of these aspiring filmmakers say these things that are just so off the rails. So we really want to kind of dispel a lot of those misnomers at this film camp and just give you the information you need to book a job, or to get your movie off the ground. Let's talk a little bit about directing. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of directors at this seminar, a lot of people that want to kind of tell their story with a camera. Well, I am going to be telling some fun, funny, comedic, but also informative stories about what it's been like to work with some of the actors that I've had a chance to work with. And I'm not going to say names on the show now, but hey, we're behind the paywall when we go on that one, so you're gonna hear a lot of dirt. I'm gonna dish the dirt on some of the big names that I've worked with, the Megan Foxes of the world, the Tyrese Gibsons of the world, the Don Johnsons, who we just talked about last week on the show. Got a chance to work with Joey Fatone. And listen, these aren't negative stories. I'm not going to be spreading a lot of negativity, but I am going to be telling stories that, working with these big name celebrities and what I've learned about how to direct these massive names. When I first came up, I had only directed my friends. My first movie, Self Storage, at that point, I had only directed people that were my buddy, people that, I'd smoke a joint with and then go make a movie because we were 20 somethings. These are all friends. Well, when you have to actually direct a professional actor for the first time, somebody that's made a living acting, oof, that's a different story, man. You better put the J down and fucking listen up because the game moves fast. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about on this show. Like, what are we going to be getting into? Real quick, because I have to jump in on this. Laza says, dirt on Machine Gun Kelly. There will 100% be dirt on Machine Gun Kelly being spoken at the Tom DiNucci Film Camp. I've got a great Machine Gun Kelly story that I'm going to share at the film camp. So yeah, that's the thing, guys. Listen, I'm not trying to go up there and tell jokes, but this will be also entertaining. And I'm trying to put a little message, during our little storytelling portion of the seminar. I'm going to try to put a little message in there too, so that, yeah, we can have a laugh about it. Yeah, we're familiar with the stars that we're talking about, but at the same time, we'll be like, oh, okay, so that's how I will handle that situation should I find myself in it personally.
Well, Tommy, I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say that even with Self Storage, Eric Roberts was in that one. So, I mean, you were pretty young and directing Self Storage, but I believe Eric Roberts is in that movie, right?
Eric Roberts, Jonathan Silverman. I mean, you're talking about right there. There's a couple of, again, guys, we're not talking about A-list movie stars, but we're talking about people that have made all of their living acting. That's what they do. They're actors. They're professional actors. This isn't a hobby for them. So when you're working with somebody like an Eric Roberts or like a Jonathan Silverman, who's been doing this since the goddamn early 80s,
Give me a break.
it's going to be challenging, and during this movie seminar, this field camp, I'm going to just tell you some of the tips on how to like work with actual professional actors. And I don't mean to be kind of negative towards, anyone who's not at that level. I'm just saying it's different. The language is different. The speed of the game is different. And you just have to be a little bit more aware. So we're going to be talking about directing techniques. I'm going to get into some tips that I've used for directing child actors. I've worked with a lot of kids in my day, and that's a different skill set. When you're directing kids, it's a totally different ball game, and you need to approach it differently. It's kind of funny because sometimes the kids are more prepared than the adult actors are, which is refreshing. They still have the great habits. It's like their mechanics are still on point. They still know, like, I gotta know all my lines when I show up on set. I'm gonna actually read the script. So we're going to be talking about different directing tips for different directing. There's different directing styles for different actors that you've got to direct. That's kind of what it comes down to. It's like I've been good about being light on the sports references today, but you hear this all the time. A great coach is going to customize how they coach. You're going to coach every player a little differently. Phil Jackson, the great Chicago Bulls coach, he's going to coach Michael Jordan a little differently than how he's going to coach Scottie Pippen, a little differently than how he's going to coach Horace Grant.
Kobe and Shaq. Yeah.
Everybody's a little different. And being a director, you're kind of like a coach, and you got to figure out what kind of player am I dealing with? Replace player with actor. What kind of actor am I dealing with? How do they tick? And that's a dance that, man, you better figure them dance moves out real quick, because like if you can't break that down in like a day or two or after a phone call or two with the actor, it's gonna be some long days on set if you're not getting along with your main actors and you don't vibe creatively. So yeah, acting, directing, producing, and of course, last but not least, the one that I'm most excited for to talk about, honestly, and it's probably like on paper not the sexiest of the four categories when you think acting, writing, directing, producing, it's writing. Guys, I am going to give you the keys to my creative castle at this film camp, and I'm going to tell you how I write a script because that is probably the number one question. If I had to do like frequently asked movie questions to Tommy DeNucci, how do you get the money for the movie? How do you get distribution for the movie? And then a lot of times you'd be shocked. How do you write a script? Where do I begin? What do I do? I get pitched all the time, guys, all the time. I'm not even kidding. It's almost frustrating. Like I would say like every other day, every 3 days, I get a call from somebody or a message or a DM. I've got a great idea for a movie. And it's like, okay, well, that's fantastic. I'm happy for you. You should go and write it. And then they say, well, I thought you'd want to write it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I appreciate that you'd be so giving to gift your brilliant idea to me. But the truth is, I've got my own fucking ideas that I want to write. And what you should do is you should take your idea and fucking write it. And then they say, well, how do you do that? And usually, if it's a friend, I will give them a couple tips. But for the most part, I say, look, that's a whole different story, man. There's a lot to it. You know, it's kind of like saying, like, well, how do I, how do I cook a Kobe beef steak? Well, I don't know. Are you a Michelin chef? Are you a chef? No? Well, then maybe you shouldn't be trying to fuck around with that Kobe beef. So what I'm going to do in this seminar is basically give you all the answers to that. How do you write a script? Well, we're going to break it down methodically because, guys, one thing that I've discovered, I'm very proud of. I'm not afraid to say it. I think I have the best outlining strategy out there, period, bar none. I don't know. I've never met another writer. I've never met another creative that outlines like I outline. And I have a very simple strategy that's going to blow your fucking mind because it's that simple. It's that easy to take your idea that might be just a sentence or two sentences of an idea. I'm going to give you this outline strategy, and you're going to be able to take that little seed of a thought of an idea and grow that shit into a 90-page screenplay that you can hand to anyone and be proud of. Because that's the biggest thing, Mike, right? What happens? Everybody starts writing a screenplay and then they get stuck around page 25, 30, maybe even 35, and they just don't know where to go with it, right?
Well, Tommy, we talked about that on one of the episodes. It might have been the screenwriting episode where I mentioned what I call the choke points. And the earliest one of the earliest choke points is I have an idea for a movie, but should never write it. Or someone might actually start to write the script and they get to what I used to call the curse of page 12. You know, you get to page 12, you've written a few things and then you stop. It could be the curse of page 25, the curse of page 30, whatever the page number is. It's just the idea that you've got to have an idea that can sustain a full 90-minute script if you're looking to write a feature. Some ideas, Tommy, as you know, might be better suited for a short film or a web series or something like that. But if you're talking about a feature film, you want to have 90 to 100 pages typically. So it's important that the outlining process that you talk about, I think that's going to be very helpful for people. And the other thing, Tommy, is just I'm sure you're going to get into it. We won't deep dive here because we want to save this for October 7th. But some of the things that you can teach people in this seminar will basically empower them to write this script and not be running around, trying to get someone else to do it. I think that's maybe this is one of the subtext lessons of your seminar in just a general way, Tommy, is a lot of times people, when they say they want to write a script or they want to have a movie made, they don't really want to do the work themselves. They want to have the idea, have their name attached to it, and have somebody else do it for them. I think what you're looking to do with the film camp on October 7th at 1 o'clock in East Greenwich is to empower people to do their own work and to help them because a lot of this stuff you're not going to find. It's not like you can buy a book with this 1, 2, and 3 what to do. So this film camp is going to be part of people's process, I think.
Thanks, Mike. And listen, you touched on something that I want to mention. There are countless filmmaking books and screenwriting books and acting books. Every bookstore you go to, you're going to find a whole big ass section with film books But you know what the difference is? Those film books aren't going to be able to interact with you. They're not going to be able to answer your questions directly. And it's everybody's theory. And a lot of these, a lot of these books, it's kind of like, I read these books sometimes. I remember when I was first coming up in the business, and yeah, I read film books like every other movie kid. And then I would look up the author and I would look him up and I'd say, what the fuck has this guy ever done in the business?
Yeah.
Really? Like a lot of the guys that write these film books, you look up their IMDb, they haven't done shit. It makes me say, like, well, why the fuck would I listen to you? You've never sold a screenplay. You've never made a movie. So, like, I just gave you $20 for this book and you haven't done a fucking thing. So basically, guys, what I'm saying is like a lot of those books are great and the theories are awesome, but they're written by people that aren't truly in the business. If they were in the business, they wouldn't be writing books about it. They'd be on their yacht somewhere.
Well, yeah. A lot of times, Tommy, the books are written by people that maybe are really good, screenplay feedback giver, like a script evaluator or something like that. And the other thing, Tommy, I just say you talked about some of the misinformation that goes out online. I suspect what happens with some of that is there's so many film books that have been written and published that are well regarded, but they're a bit outdated. And then some 20-year-old kid can discover this 40 or 50-year-old film book, take out a couple of little passages, put together a 30-second, TikTok clip or YouTube clip, and sign it off as gospel. But as you know, Tommy, the film business, like every other business, is always evolving, always changing. 10 or 15 years ago, even, we wouldn't be talking about streaming. We didn't have something called binge watching, 15 or 20 years ago. So, I mean, the things that happen, it's always moving around. I mean, the strikes affect things. Everything gets affected very quickly. So if people are kind of mass producing these, online social media film tutorial clips, you're not going to get you're not going to get the best information because it's usually just somebody churning something out to get clicks.
Yeah, Mike, and the nice thing is, just to wrap things up here, when we do this film camp, there's going to be a whole portion of Q&A where we're going to kind of turn it over and get that microphone circulating through the audience. And I can't wait to hear some of the questions and really give you honest feedback and my honest answer. And, some of it's going to be maybe what you don't want to hear. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to give people the reality of, look, this is a very challenging business. There's no question about it. Sometimes it feels like you're pushing a boulder uphill backwards. But the reality is somebody's got to do it. And there's a lot of people out there that are having a lot of success with it. And with the advent of YouTube, and you just mentioned TikTok and social media and all the videos that are kind of popping off, man, you could do one great thing. This is what's so exciting about living in 2023 as a creative. You could do one special great thing, whether it's create a video, whether it's, you create something and it goes viral and it pops. And suddenly all those years of effort that you put in can be paid off in 1 second. If you make that hit video or if you have that concept that blows up, you're able to create some content and, 10 million people watch it in a week. It's a really exciting time period. And, it's almost like the gold rush, like a creative gold rush in a sense. Because, yeah, there's always going to be big studio movies. There's always going to be the superhero movies and that shit. But the truth is, like, we're in an era now where, like, if you have a really creative idea and maybe it's only a 1 minute story that you want to tell, if it's quality and you do it right and you can romance that old algorithm the right way on social media, you never know, man. Your 1 minute movie may blow up and a million people see it. And then, as they say, who knows? Maybe Hollywood comes calling because of something that you proactively did. So, I love the fact that we're in an era now where there's a direct line to get your creativity out there to a mass of people in a really, really short period of time. And it's a very rare thing that I don't think enough creatives are taking advantage of. The fact that, like, guys, you don't need a fucking big fangled distributor anymore. You just don't. You don't need all this kind of crazy money to go do something special. You just need really great, unique ideas, and you need to execute them in a way that are going to, I'm almost going to say, just be passable in a sense. Like people aren't expecting a Steven Spielberg production out of your YouTube video. They just need it to be great. They need it to be quality enough, and they need it to touch them in the feels one way or another. And if you can do that, man, this is an exciting time period. 10, 20 years ago, if you had a great idea, man, you might have to like go into some short film competition and hope that people see it. Nowadays, man, you upload that shit to YouTube, you put the right hashtags on it, and if it's good, people will react. And that's a special time to be a creative. So that's part of what we're going to be talking about at the film camp too. Like what are some ways that you can stand out from the crowd in 2023 that you probably couldn't have years past that maybe a lot of actors aren't thinking of. Like one of the things I'm going to get into is I think every actor should have a YouTube channel. And if you don't have a YouTube channel, it's like you almost don't even exist,
Right.
because more and more, YouTube channel, Instagram, can't tell you how important those two things are, and even TikTok, because the reality is people are casting directly off of YouTube now. They're casting directly off of social media. That's how they're finding the next people that they want to kind of, as they say in the wrestling business, this is for Laza. That's where they find the next people that they want to put over and strap a rocket to their back. By they, I mean casting companies, I mean movie producers. They're looking at social media. They're looking at YouTube. So take advantage of this shit that's right in front of your face. Wouldn't you? What do you think about that, Mike? Don't you think people need to get a little more proactive with their social media footprint, with their YouTube footprint?
Well, it's actually speaking of our buddy Laza, he's in Australia. And when I did my cameo for him, I said, Laza, a lot of people in the United States are pretty curious about Australia because we don't see really a whole lot about it. We had Crocodile Dundee, and maybe that's about it. So I said, Laza, if you're in Australia, you have, you know, all this scenery and all this stuff that you and me and Tommy don't have in the United States. Why don't you make it a YouTube channel about your home country, your hometown? That's what I said to Laza on his cameo, and I think the lesson can go for anyone. If someone's in Detroit, they have stuff in Detroit that's happening that people in the rest of the country and the world don't. Any home where you live may not be very exciting to the individual because that's what you grew up with, but you got to put yourself in other people's shoes. Your hometown is a destination for them, whatever it is, and whether it's uplifting or scary or anywhere in between, the salt of the earth or the scary downtown environment, it's going to be interesting to other people. And I think YouTube, for all its faults, is a great way to get your name and your perspective, your point of view,
For
your
sure, and it's
story
free.
out
And
there.
that's the thing. And the great thing too is it's free. It's like again, one of the things I want to talk about at the film camp is just like help hopefully motivate people is just like get the fucking excuses out of the way. They don't exist. Like there's going to be no excuses. We're going to figure out ways to do things uh without all of the yeah, but I can't because of this. Yeah, but that. Yeah, but this. There'll be no yeah buts, and we're just going to be positive. And I can't wait to just kind of see everybody get positive, feel the energy in the room, get people motivated and fired up. Because the reality is these strikes are coming to an end, and we're going to be back on set before you know it. And now's the time to level up. Now's the time to focus. Now's the time to take things seriously. And I promise you, if you put in that little bit of extra effort when it comes time to get in the audition room, when it comes time to go raise money for your movie, when it comes time to, direct that small YouTube short that you wanted to make, you're going to feel a lot more confident after the film camp. So I'm really excited for it, guys. I really appreciate everybody coming out to support it. I really appreciate all of the recent clicks to subscribe on my YouTube channel if you haven't already. The channel that you're watching this show on, Tom DeNucci Film. That's my personal YouTube channel, and I've been working really hard to build it up over this last year plus. So please go ahead and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Mike, I know you've got a YouTube channel. If you want to say a couple words about that.
Yeah, I've got about 4 or 5 now. I've got one Mike Messier for my film reviews, one pro wrestling and sports fan for my pro wrestling and sports takes, one Bandit of Camera Films for my own original films, and one artist, Mike Messier, is my new one for the artwork. And Tommy, I did want to say, is there going to be a special guest at your film camp, or
Yeah,
you want
let's
to?
talk about that real quick as we wrap it up. So, I will have an introduction by David Gear, who's a guy that we've talked about on the show many times. David will be introducing me and giving a little kickoff. And David's a great producer who's been involved in so many projects that I've been a part of as well. And we're also just great friends. So it's really nice to have him there to support the seminar. And also, here's what the VIPs are going to get. You might be seeing there. It's $25 for general admission, and it's $50 for VIPs. Well, what the VIPs get is after the 2.5 hour general discussion, the curtain will close, so to speak, and the show will be over. I'll probably go backstage to, you know, pee and grab a water.
Not
And
at the same time.
yeah, not at the same time. That would be very counterproductive. But I'll take a little 5-minute break. Everybody can, hit their bathroom breaks and do what they got to do, and then we'll come on back and we'll have more of an intimate sort of conversation where I want to be pitched. People can pitch me their ideas. If you're an actor, you can give me your headshot and your resume and say, "Hey, look, this is my headshot, my resume. These are the kind of things that I do. Uh, keep me in mind for a movie down the road." If you're a writer and you've got a screenplay, I can't read the whole screenplay during this VIP session, but you can pitch me it. You can give me I'll spend a good. My goal is to, and this obviously all depends on how many people show up, but I would like to at least be able to spend a good 5 minutes one on one with everybody, and have them ask me whatever questions they want, pitch me whatever ideas they have. And I'll be very honest with you. I'll say, "Hey, that's a great idea. I think that you should try to focus on this a little more. Hey, that's a terrific idea. You know where you should go with that? This distribution company would be great for something like that." Or really, like, that's where I plan on. Like I said, there will be a Q&A for the general audience, but during this portion of the seminar, it's really like a one-on-one conversation with me. And I know what you're thinking. Well, how do we have a one-on-one conversation if there's 20, 30 other people there? Well, it's going to be done in such a way where there's myself is there. I'll have David Gear there as well. So you'll be able to chat with me. You'll be able to chat with David, and we'll kind of separate it in such a way where maybe one of us will be on the stage and one of us will be towards the back of the theater, and we'll kind of just call people in and have our little one-on-one time. And again, I'm this is my first seminar in a while. I'm still feeling out this portion. Depending upon how comfortable everybody is with everybody. If it's a smaller group, we're not really sure what we're going to be facing just yet. If it's a smaller group, maybe we'll just invite everybody on stage and kind of just do it round table style and just kind of have an open discussion. But I know that some people would probably prefer to have that one-on-one kind of time. So I'm willing to give that up too. So what we'll do is, the VIP section, we're going to kind of feel it out. But the idea is it's going to be a very in-depth chance to kind of, either show me something that you're excited about project-wise that's got potential, or, ask me those questions that you've been wondering about this business that's sometimes a bit of a mystery. Now's the time to get the real information.
I think it's very exciting, Tommy, and the price points are $25 for the general admission, $50 for VIP. Like we said, East Greenwich, Rhode Island, is a great place to visit for the day and the evening. Make a day and night of it. Have fun. And like we said a couple of times, this is not a downtown New York City or downtown Boston where you're going to be paying 50, 60, $100 for parking. There's free parking in East Greenwich, and it's a city. I know at the Christmas season and the New Year's season, they have the lights lit up. I'm not sure if October 7th that'll be all happening, but maybe there'll be some, fall or Halloween type of stuff going on in some of the shops and stuff. So I think it's going to be like a really pleasant experience for people in this theater. I've been in it many times. We had the Andrews Manor screening there, Tommy. The theater really is a nice historic venue. One thing I don't think we mentioned, and we probably should have earlier, is the website. Can you give us the website to buy tickets, Tommy?
Yeah, guys, tickets are available at the Greenwich Odium website, which I'm going to punch it in just so that I get the actual
I'm just
website here.
I'm just going to observe some of my one artist Mike Messier YouTube channel art there, Tommy. These are all the excited people going to your film camp. They're all learning.
Oh, wow. Is that them?
That's them, buddy. They're all amazed. People of all colors, green, pink, blue, yellow, all nationalities are invited.
So, guys, that website is greenwichodium.com. And Greenwich is spelled kind of funny. It's Greenwich, it's how it's spelled. So it's GREENWICH, Greenwich Odium, ODEUM. You know, there's actually a couple different ways to spell odium. These guys go with the ODEUM. So that's Greenwich Odium. Just Google it. If you Google Greenwich Odium, DeNucci Fall Film Camp, it's all going to come up. Would love for you to buy those tickets in advance. It's always nice just to know what our numbers are that we're working with. And like I said, I hope we can do this seminar, spend some time on Main Street after. Maybe we'll all hit a watering hole, a coffee shop, a restaurant, and kind of chop it up and continue the conversation beyond the seminar, beyond the film camp. So thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate you all spending time today to give a little preview of this show. And like I said, if you're not able to actually attend the film camp, I am going to have a way down the road for everybody to still watch this film camp behind a paywall for a very minor price, for a fraction of what you'd pay for the live show, but it'll still be just as informative. So we appreciate that, guys, and we'll see you next week on An Action. We'll catch you next Tuesday.